Hello, welcome back. I'm Joe.
And TJ.
And we are the Schoolhouse 302, and this is our hashtag Read This series, where we bring to you 3 great books on our topic for the month. This month, we're totally focused on being resilient. Our blog, we wrote on resilience and really 6 steps for bouncing back. We use the acronym RESIST, really as a way to resist, wallowing, resist falling into a slump, getting into, the downy dumps, if you will. It's hard. It's hard. This blog really resonated with people, TJ.
It did. Can I tell you something?
Absolutely.
It kind of resonated with me a little bit. I've been telling myself some stuff that I would not tell another human being, man. I can talk to myself sometimes in some pretty nasty ways. It gets me a pity party going, and I have a tough time bouncing back. And I know we wrote about it, but boy, oh boy, do I struggle with it sometimes.
No, it's an excellent point. No one is going to go through life without major setbacks, without their own mind being a minefield. And that's tough. We're not impervious to these things. And it's good for our listeners to know, though, just because we write about this stuff, a lot of what we write about is born from our heart. It's what we're experiencing, which was the foundational principle of the Schoolhouse 302, to convey things that we're talking about. I did not know you were struggling with some of that. But like they say, some of the greatest battles you'll ever fight are right between your 2 ears.
It's true. It's true. It's tough, but I'm going to lock myself in a closet and give myself a pep talk.
Absolutely. That's what you got to do. What TJ just described is a really good technique. You have to just give yourself a pep talk. You have to find a way to get yourself into a resourceful state. And sometimes just saying, you know what, enough is enough. I'm sitting here, I'm thinking things that are unproductive. I'm going to lock myself. I'm going to give myself a pep talk. When I walk out of that door, I'm going to be totally energized, totally refocus on my goals, and I'm going to go get after it. And that's, a lot of that's Zig Ziglar, who is just fascinating with his work and what he's been able to do throughout his career back in the day. So
it's a great point. The 2 things we have most control over are our own effort, our own attitude. Why don't you tell us about one of our first books?
So with that, we wanted to switch this month up. We're going to actually give you really just some insight into the lives of some tremendous people. Our first book is A Wrestling Life. Now, if you are in the world of scholastic wrestling and collegiate wrestling, you've heard of Dan Gable. Dan Gable is considered probably one of the greatest wrestlers, or not the greatest wrestlers of all time, although the Penn State fans that are our audience may argue Cale Sanderson is. But this book is all about fight. It's all about will. He spends time on his own upbringing, his own journey through wrestling. But he also talks about a lot of kids he's coached. And it's reassuring to learn that NCAA champions, some of the greatest wrestlers on earth, some of the baddest dudes ever, struggle with resilience, coping. But they have to bounce back. They have to dig deep. They say wrestling's the toughest 6 minutes in sports, and he illustrates that, but gives very practical examples that we can model. Great book.
It's an awesome book. Talk about some of the baddest dudes who've had to come back from tough times. This book is awesome. Leadership in Turbulent Times by Doris Kearns Goodwin. Awesome about this book, features in the book are Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Lyndon B. Johnson. Just the stories and the massive almost depressions that some of these guys went through. We hear of them and herald them as these great leaders, especially for me, Lincoln. I look up to the things that he was able to accomplish, and I just love the stories. Yeah. But to know that they had to bounce back, they had to resist their own demons, and just having that resilience. I think sometimes the greatest leaders are the ones that have the toughest struggles. And so this book is a must-read. Leadership in Turbulent Times. If you don't have a copy of it, pick it up. Joe, what's our Mac Daddy?
Our Mac Daddy is called Endurance, Shackleton's incredible voyage to the Antarctic. This is written by Alfred Lansing. This is a phenomenal journey. So when we talk about resilience, something we have to remember is about endurance, going long. And we have to remember that failure is not fatal. The key is once we fail, how fast do we pick ourselves back up? I'm not going to ruin this story for you if you're not familiar with Shackleton and his expedition, but make no mistake, there are people featured throughout all three of these books, particularly Endurance, and it has great pictures.
Yeah.
It's littered with things that are inspirational, but you walk away knowing what others have done, what you can emulate, and that's a lot of times how we learn. TJ, very often we want just tips. We want those little tricks. Sometimes we have to look at what others have done, model from that, learn from it. That being said, though, we always do leave our audience with a tip.
Yeah, so the tip this month is just about going deeper.
Yep.
The summertime's coming. We always recommend summer reads. And we find that a lot of people like to get breadth in their reads, especially over the summer. They stack the books. They say, I'm going to read this book. I'm going to learn what's all in all of these pieces of literature. And that doesn't necessarily work. What we're saying is pick a topic. It doesn't mean you shouldn't read 5, 10 books over the summer, but we're saying is pick one topic, go deep, become the expert. Pick 5 books on one topic. Let us know what those books are. We want to hear about it. If you're picking a book, the topic of feedback, you can pick up our Candid and Compassionate Feedback book as one of the ones that'll help you become an expert. But go deep. Don't try to go wide.
Absolutely.
And speaking of endurance, what we're going to do to complement our tip is we interviewed John Beatty on our hashtag One Thing series, and he sent us a copy of his book, Climb On, a signed copy,
Absolutely.
by the way. And we're going to give that away to the first person who replies to us with either the books they're going to read to go deep this summer, stack them up on one topic, or a tip to help our listeners read more to lead better and grow faster. And there you have it. Hashtag
Absolutely.
read this series. The Schoolhouse 302. Don't forget to follow us on the schoolhouse302.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following. Thanks for the likes. And as always, we'll see you next month.